Jordan, thank you for joining us for this kind of live demonstration podcast. I think it's awesome that we catch up, in the real world, then we come into school, and it doesn't matter where you put you and I, we'll do our thing. Before we kind of kick off, Jordan, what I've been encouraging the students that are watching today that are part of this class is that we look after the person we're interviewing and we kind of acknowledge their story. And the way I'd like to start is if you could do a couple of things for us. We talk about who, why, what. Who are you? What do you do? And why do you do it? Would you mind just talking through the who, why, what for your story so far?
Yeah, who am I? Yeah, so name's Jordan Lee Ikitule. I grew up down the road in Wuri. I spent half of my life in Wuri and then the other half in Rewa. The saying, life's hard, but Rewa's harder. My why, who, why, what? Oh, and I've been married for 11 years and I have 2 kids. So my daughter is 10. She thinks she's 18. Must be YouTube. My son is 6 and he has autism, and then I have another child on the way, which I don't know if it's a boy or girl. My wife didn't want to know. So I've been in a lot of pain just thinking about whether I'm going to have a boy or girl. And that's my why. So my kids are my why. I grew up, like I said, just down the road in state housing. My dad was always a part of a local gang. And I grew up with all the street kids, just with my mum. Shout out to my mum. So I grew up with a solo mother, and I think being a lot older now, I just love to give back, and that's what I'm here to do.
Awesome, bro. I guess one of the questions I encourage young people to ask people older than them when they interview is, what was life like for you when you were 15, 16? And I'm older than you, so I guess I'll ask you to map onto those times when you were the age of these people here. I can't imagine that it is easy being young in today's world. You have a lot of information, a lot of options, and a lot of people like us coming into spaces like this to say, just follow me and we'll be all right. But I guess, what was it like for you when you were coming into these gates every day?
Yeah. Oh, well, I used to hate coming into school. I wish we had I think one thing I want to make clear too is I wish we had programs like this back then, because a lot of it was a lot different back in the day. But for me, most of my most of my schooling, I was on curfew, so I was heading to youth prison. I had to be home couldn't be outside of home after 7, and I think looking back, I used to think I was an adult or knew everything when I was a teen. But what I realized when you finish school, that's when your life begins, everything in school is awesome it's meant to be our place to learn. But I think one mistake or one thing that I'd sort of look back on is thinking that I was old and thinking that I knew how the world worked. And I do agree, I think it's a little bit harder now for our youth today, because our youth have access to too much info. When we were in school, we didn't have data and Wi-Fi. We had to pay all this big money for data, so no one could even afford data. And we didn't have much access to the internet. So we only had we could only access it if we went to cafes or in school. But I just think nowadays it's a lot different, because our kids constantly having information thrown at them at a speed that is pretty crazy.
Who were the people in school that I guess helped guide you in the right direction? That's one of the hopes for these kind of programs, is that students know that I'm coming and I have expectations on them, and then I'm out and it's on to them. And I don't expect them to do everything we say, but I expect them to have a try. Did you have someone like me in school?
Yeah, I started, I secretly loved hip hop dancing. So a lot of my background is in dance, but I didn't start till year 12. So, because I was real scared, and I was playing union and league. I used to play for the Marlins, and a lot of the boys now play for NRL. But yeah, I was like scared of what people would think, what my friends would have thought if I like actually told them what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I wanted to dance, but I was just too like ashamed or too scared to like tell my circle like this is what I want to do. And stepping out was like scary because I think in our culture we like to like try and sit back, especially like out South Auckland. We tend to like not want to just put ourselves out there because like I don't know if it's like it now, but in our culture it's like we try and mock and things. So like I was more afraid of like the boys mocking me than like actually doing what I wanted to do. So I finally got the courage in like year 12 to tell our dean like, oh, I want to do dance. And they're like, you didn't do it in year 11, so you can't. So I just made up this thing. I was like, oh, no, I'm a mean ass dancer. Like, I just dance outside of school. And she was like, oh, we'll give you a trial then. And then, yeah, that for me was like the turning point. Like it changed my whole circle. Like the boys couldn't come in the dance studio. You know, like the boys that I used to go do silly stuff with, like we used to steal cars and rob stores, like the sushi at Supercenter. That just changed the whole game. And I didn't realize at the time, but that was like my saving grace. Like now I'm not going to hang around with the boys. They don't want to dance. Like they're not going to come in the studio. And now I want to get better. And now I'm starting to learn like, oh, there's this passion. I love dance. So I started to like wanting to be in practices, and I wasn't really like a good speaker. Like, I think looking at me now, you'll probably think like this guy's all lies. But when I used to do speeches in school, like I would just do anything to try not to.
Yeah.
Like I used to have my book and I'm like shaking like this, like almost crying, and like couldn't sleep the night before, and I just like my brain's just. And we used to have this saying in school like tomato face. And like the boys would just yell out tomato face because like your face starts going red. But there's all that stuff. Like if I didn't start dancing, I don't know where I would be today. I definitely like I don't think I'd be the man I am today. You know, always looking out for my kids. Like my parents didn't have their dads as well, so like I'm sort of like the third generation to break that cycle. And then I'm just real big on like you can do it. Like it doesn't matter where you come from. I guess the harder the story, like the better it is as well. When you do overcome it, it means like you can go back, and it qualifies you to go back and do things like this. But yeah.
So is one of the lessons that, you know, in this podcast course, for example, we go through hobbies.
Yeah.
And I feel a lot of tension from our students to say what they think we want to hear. But I'm more interested in what are you interested in?
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess, would you say that you really have to take seriously not suppressing your interests? Like, I guess dance for you, like you say, was a bit of a saving grace.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah, it's funny you talk about suppression because like there's a program I run today called Express Yourself, and it's about like expressing who you are. And a lot of us tend to like suppress that stuff. And I think going back to our kids nowadays, you know, they have access to like TikTok, and it can be really distracting. It can lead to like people, like the biggest thief of joy is comparison, and like it can lead to you like comparing yourself. But I just think, you know, we all know what we want to do, and if you don't, like, then just try heaps of like different stuff. Like I've tried so many different like activities, sports, and I still do to this day. Like now I'm looking for a chess club. Like it's funny. Like, I've done like CrossFit, I've done bodybuilding, I've done dancing, I ski, so many stuff I do now. But yeah, I think if you don't know what you want to do, then just try things. Yeah, try as many things, and you might find something. And if you do know what you want to do, but you might be a little bit embarrassed, then try and find or surround yourself with those same people, and they'll help you. You got to change your circle.
If you didn't come up with your genius excuse for your dean, man, that was a big moment.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a shame that they didn't say, yeah, man, come in, you're showing interest. And I guess, you know, for our students today, there might be that moment coming for you where you've got to fight a little bit to get in, you know? Were you aware at the time when you talked to your dean that this was going to be a fork in the road?
No, I didn't. I just sort of knew like I wanted to do it. But I was like similar, like I was dreading it, like I was just running through my mind like what it might look like when I ask. And
did you have anyone to talk to about this at home, in your
yeah,
community? Like that
yeah.
you had this thing that you wanted to do and were a bit embarrassed about maybe being mocked?
Yeah,
It's brutal, you know?
Yeah. Well, I probably just had my mum, but I just kept it to myself. Like I didn't go out and tell anyone. I just sort of just done it because I was like, if I don't say anything and I do it, like at least no one knows if I didn't get through. But I ended up getting through, and then that year I got like most improved dancer, and then the following year I got like the excellence award, and then I like finished level 3 in dance, and there's still like 2 terms left, so started doing level 4. But yeah, it was such a. I really feel you just gotta dig deep and find that courage if there's no one to talk to. I think nowadays though, like you have people like Will, or you have a lot of people you can trust in school. So find someone that might not even be related to dance or where you want to head to, but there is someone, like I'm sure there's someone you can think of. I don't know if it's in church, or you might be a part of some groups, or might be a rugby coach. Like, yeah, there should be someone you can talk to if you really think about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what'd you do? Do you remember the day where you weren't coming to school anymore? Like, obviously you finished school at some point.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you got up and did? Was it like, wow, I don't go to school anymore? Because that day's coming for everyone.
Yeah.
And I remember it, and you'll remember it. But I guess what I'm trying to plant the seeds in our student is the things we're doing now with podcasting is it's going to be your toolkit going into the world where you have an advantage. Like every student here knows more about you than you know about them. And that's an advantage for them. And when you're young, you don't have many advantages. So you got to take any bit. But what were you doing on your first couple of weeks out of school? Did you have a bit of a master plan?
I had no plan. I was actually, I was shocked. Like your mindset, like when you're in school, is like you go through like December, Jan holidays, and you're like, yeah, it's all good. I'm coming back to school in term 1 Feb. So I wasn't really like planning anything. But when it started to come around to Jan, I was like, holy snap! Like, what am I doing? So yeah, I think like you guys have the opportunity to change that. Like, especially me coming back and explaining my mistakes and where I went wrong. Like, you just have that opportunity. Like, if I had someone come back when I was your guys year level, like I feel like it would have woken me up. Like, damn, this guy looks similar to me. He's from the same area, but he's gone through life. Like, I'm 32 now, and yeah, if I could go back and when I was this age and hear someone else, next student, saying like, prepare what you want to do, then man, I'll take that, and run for it.
And so bring us through those years. How did you find direction? Obviously, there's a bit of time between 18 and 32.
Yeah.
So like, obviously some of the students have researched your career so far, but what was that next milestone out of school?
I was meant to be in like a movie and had like all these plans as like chasing my dance career. That fell through, and then I went into banking. So I was like an ex-banker, like was finished up in corporate banking. But I think going back to it, if I could redo this, I think one of the main things is to focus on, like there's a saying, like work harder on yourself, then work harder on your job. And for me, like, I think one thing is build your skills. Like if you don't know what you're going to do, like try find things you can do. And like this, like podcasting is the future. Like it's massive. Like the predictions in terms of like podcasting, like public speaking, there's skills, getting good at like content, find out like what skills are important, and then really like increase yourself. And you guys have access to like YouTube. That's crazy. Like you can learn anything you want. But I think like just build your skills up, you know, and then you'll have more options when you do finish school.
Yeah. What I admire about the work you do is you're going on that journey. You know, there's lots you don't know, but you're okay with that level of risk. What why do you think you are okay with that risk? Is it because you had a toe in the water here to see what, there's risky moments already, so you're more comfortable in risk? Talk to me about the courage you need to chase your dreams. It's like no small thing. Because I bet you wake up some nights thinking, man, is this going to work?
Yeah, my courage comes from growing, like my upbringing. Like there was such, like I wouldn't change my upbringing because it made me who I am today. So my upbringing, and I don't know what you guys are going through personally, but I use that as fuel. Like sometimes I go back to my old house in my old neighborhood. Like I took my daughter there and she was like shocked. Like, did you live here? And I was like just explaining like what it was like growing up there. So I use like pain and suffering as my fuel. Like I don't want to go back there, not in like a bad way, and it's not like dissing any of that. Like I don't understand what my parents went through as well, but I'm not going to use that as an excuse to like carry that on. So for me, that's where I get my my drive from, is I just really wanted, like, I want to change, and I think I try to find that in the street stuff.
So that is not good that you have that pain, but you're using it as your fuel. Students can relate to that. And I don't think that conversation is talked about all the time.
No.
Because I know that when you were at school, I was in a whole different environment. I was going to school where my path was laid out for me. So I don't have that pain, but it's turned into nervousness of not knowing a direction in life. And so what I kind of want you to be able to say is that the students here have an advantage over everyone else.
Yeah.
Because if you can fuel yourself through the things you're not happy with, you can get ahead. Is it like, does that really exist?
Yeah, definitely.
Like seriously?
Yeah, like that's where I get my fuel. Like I had to wear like my siblings, some of the youngest, like I remember wearing their school uniform. I couldn't even fit there for my brother's like shirt, and I'm like, bro. But like, I used to just think like, man, once I get this, I'm gonna do this. I don't have that, but it definitely like just added a lot of fuel, like, and it still does to this day. And even like coming in here today, like that's why when you had message, I'm like, well, I'm always keen to like give back to my community, and that's driver.
One of the things I'm really big on is I don't like when people say, oh, you just need this to get ahead. And how that means for me is like, you need special podcasts, get a podcast. You actually don't. You need a phone or a school computer, anything that can record.
Yeah.
Same with the ways we build our logos and ways we edit. It's all free software. And I don't like that everyone here is told that you need to, not by school, but if they go out to the world like university or whatnot, it's all about you pay. And it's like, I want you to give first, and I really admire that you're giving. But what are the free things you do to help amplify your story? For example, I know you read a lot. And I don't know, was reading part of your upbringing? Did you really enjoy it the whole way through?
When I was younger, I used to read all the jokes. I used to read. I thought reading was like, I used to see people with books like, oh, this idiot. But no, I started reading when I was 30. So I don't know how many books I've read. Like nowadays, I can read a book in a week, and I was like, I never thought that was possible. And then now, like, it's starting to brush off on like my wider family. Like I'm sure if you see this podcast, I'm sure they used to look at me like the same thing. It was just so foreign. But I started listening to I started really digging deeper into like self-development. Like that's huge. Like
could you explain that a bit just for our students who are maybe not even heard that word put into context yet? Self-development, what do you mean?
Yeah, self-development is really just focusing on upskilling yourself. Like, yourself as a person. Like I started that journey when I was 30 because I thought I had all the answers. Like I was trying different businesses, and I was like, there was always like gaps in my performance, but I used to think it was like the government's fault or this person's fault or this circumstance, and really it was just me. Like I just wasn't like waking up early enough. I wasn't scheduling my time, and that's a lot of the stuff that you learn in self-development. So for me, I read like a lot of books. Even on the way here, I'm listening to like I'm not listening to music. I'm listening to like philosophers or people that I follow that can just continue to help me become a better person. So it's like, yeah, it's been like a really powerful journey. And like I was saying, like I only started reading at 30 years old, like, and if I was to show you like the improvements, it'll be crazy from prior to reading and prior to listening to podcasts and I forgot what they called, like sort of like mentors.
Yep.
Now I have mentors as well. Like I used to think mentors similar to books. I used to think that was just rubbish. Yeah. It's like, who needs a mentor?
So what's a mentor kind of explained in practical terms for you? How would you describe a mentor?
Yeah, I'd say a mentor is someone you aspire to be like that's ahead of you. So there's like my mentors, I probably have like 3 or 4. And like one might focus on like health and well-being, another one focuses on like business, another one focuses on like being a father, being a husband. So I have different mentors, but it's so key. Like it's a major life hack. Like reading, listening to the right content and having mentors is like the best life hack.
You know, if you were back in everyone's shoes here, the idea of approaching someone to say mentor me might be hard. Do you have any words of encouragement how you might find a mentor? I mean, partly what the podcast does is it puts mentors with you and you get to interview them. But I really do feel like don't wait till your mid-20s and 30s to start this journey.
Yeah.
You know? What would be your thoughts if someone wants to get a bit of encouragement? Maybe it's a teacher who they admire, to go up to them and say, hey, would you mentor me?
Yeah, I would say think about someone who, and just don't be afraid to reach out. Like a lot of people skip that first step. Like they're just so scared. Like you might write the message and then not push send. Or you might have the idea. Like as soon as you have that idea, try and write it down and follow through and just approach them. Like you might even just approach them. You might not even talk about, can you mentor me? It might just be, do you have like a spare 10 to 15 minutes? You know, just want to chat with you. Also like prepare yourself what you want to get out of that meeting or what the questions you might want to ask. The worst thing is like asking someone, oh, can I have 10 minutes of your time? And then you sit there and you're just like, you don't know what you want to ask. So prepare yourself with like some questions. And maybe if you've already seen them online, like try and ask something a little bit different. Like you might already know what they're doing. Try and ask something that might be related to you.
I guess, Jordan, tell us a little bit about ASD Dads and this journey, because I know it's a moving ship. You know, I know that you're still, I guess maybe give us an outline, if you can, on what are the cool things happening in your world that you're trying to push forward.
Yeah, so ASD Dads, like my goal is for it to be a worldwide organization. I haven't said this publicly, but like we're launching our ASD Dads in Brisbane in June. That guy, I reckon he's a bit of a celebrity, but he's got an autistic son, so he's keen to help out. We have our charity run called Run for Autism, which is in New Zealand. It's in 4 countries, so New Zealand, Sydney, Japan, and Utah. We're still running our free workshops, running our meetings with our dads, our mums, free community events for our kids. With my clothing brand, this is my clothing brand, Awesome Kids. I'm trying to figure out how to sell, because there's 13 countries that want my brand, and I've never run like a clothing company. So I'm like, well, I'm trying to figure out how to just get it to New Zealand. Another thing is like these t-shirts, like on the back it says Run for Autism, so we're selling it in the 4 locations as well. So that's another thing I have to figure out. So I'm just like, yeah, it's been fun trying to figure that stuff out. And then also running my dance company, Express Yourself, which is run with myself and the O'Neill twins, who are also ex-students of Manita High School. And then I'm starting my daughter's business this year as well. So exciting time.
Busy boy, eh?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Busy.
The last question I have before I wrap up this part of our chat and we hand it over to the students, we'll push stop for that, is what's a piece of advice that you're happy to share today that you know to be true? You know, I think people have got lots of advice for everybody on all different topics. But when I talk to someone, I'm like, what are you confident in sharing that you know works for everyone? Doesn't matter what situation our students in, or even Daniel and I, it's like, what is something that you know to be true that you're happy to share?
Look at your closest 5 friends. If you look at like your circle and say like 4 of your friends are all, you know, not attending school, or they're just like they don't want to achieve anything in life, but you do. Like you can't really be saying like, oh, yeah, I want to achieve this, but I'm hanging out these 4 guys, because then you're going to be the 5th. Like it's a fact. So if there's anything you can take away from this podcast is if you have a dream and you want to achieve that dream, and there's no excuse, because there's kids that come from like way worse situations than us in South Auckland, is like really check who your circle is, because no matter what, like you will be the 5th. So if 4 of your closest friends are just mucking around and not doing anything positive, and you're thinking like, yeah, I want to be this positive and I want to chase my dream, you're not, because you're still hanging out with those 4. So really have a look at your circle.
Awesome. Jordan, thank you for answering the bat signal and coming in to class and doing this for our students. I know it doesn't fix everything, but I know that we're doing something right now that hardly any other school is doing.
Yeah.
And I know it works, and I look forward to seeing how this makes impact for the years to come on our students.